and Company are not necessarily those of 13 ABC. Now, Conklin and Company continues with Take 3, commentary and analysis from our panel of political contributors.
Welcome back, everyone. Take 3 now with Melissa Miller from Bowling Green State University. Great to see you again. Thanks for coming in. And boy, could be the most active week of the political season here in Northwest Ohio. Same day they're coming.
Same day. I mean, I knew the candidates would be coming to Northwest Ohio between now and Election Day. I didn't really predict that they'd both be here on the same day, but I'm not surprised because of the importance of Ohio as a battleground state, because of the importance of Northwest Ohio, and with President Obama going to Bowling Green, it sounds like.
Interesting, yeah.
He's going straight to Wood County, where Romney was in the summer,
Right.
where he gave a town hall, and that's because Wood County is a swing county and a swing state, so it's just a vital county for both candidates.
That appearance with Mitt Romney in Bowling Green was where I thought he really struck a high note. I thought he hit it out of the park that day in Bowling Green. And after that, we've had the convention, didn't get the bounce Republicans wanted. And this 47% tape, Melissa, that everybody has seen now. From last week when he mentioned the 47%, some believe they're victims. How damaging now, a week after, for Mitt Romney?
I think it's still harmful. Mitt Romney did not do himself any favors. I'm pretty certain the campaign knows that. And I think one of the reasons is that there's been a sense that Mitt Romney is sort of out of touch with the middle class, and he's really been working on that. He's certainly tried to appeal to the middle class and tried to seem like he was more relatable and compassionate during the convention. But any gain they had from Ann Romney's speech, from his own speech, really talking from the heart at the convention, I would argue was somewhat undone by the 47% video that was released this week.
Okay, now how important is it? We have the campaign appearances this week, and we understand Mitt Romney is going to be on a bus tour with Paul Ryan, and this will be the culmination on Wednesday when they, at least at this point, when they come in. But then we look forward to the debates in about 10 days as this airs here.
The debates are just vitally important, and I think especially for Mitt Romney, because he's had a rocky couple of weeks and he didn't get any bounce. The president's bounce, slight though it was, appears to have mostly dissipated. I think he's now got a slight edge nationally.
The Republicans say that sugar high is gone now.
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that.
Yeah.
You know, the president in the latest poll of polls is up 4 points nationally, 4 points in Ohio, but that's just outside the margin of error. So we're almost back to sort of just the dead heat. We're almost at the dead heat. I think for Romney in particular, if there's going to be a game changer, it needs to be at these debates. I think he really needs to seize control at this point, because if not now, when?
And this first one is supposed to focus on the economy.
And that should be a strength for Romney, really. I mean,
we haven't heard he hasn't been able to talk about the economy because of this 47% thing.
Exactly. I mean, this was the week when we were supposed to get more details about his economic plans, and instead we got the videotape. So I think the debates are a time to do that. I think the debates are also a time for Romney to really bring it to the Obama campaign, because while I think both campaigns have been short on specifics, if I were advising the Romney campaign, I would ask the president, you know, look, the economic recovery seems to have stalled a bit. Even the August unemployment numbers, the rate came down, but that was mostly minuscule. And economists from across the ideological spectrum are saying that's mostly people leaving the job market. So I think it's fair for the Romney campaign to say, tell us what you'll do differently now, because what you've done so far has given us some improvement, but not enough. You know, so I think both campaigns need to provide more specifics, and hopefully we'll get that in the debates.
What did you take this week? The senatorial debates began this week, and the Senate candidates began pulling away from Mitt Romney. The Republicans, because of this 47% situation. It happened in Massachusetts with Scott Brown.
It happened also in Wisconsin. The former Wisconsin Governor Tommy Thompson seeming to sort of blame the Romney ticket. I'll tell you what, I think races are tight here and everywhere. And when that happens, you'll get some of this, you know, sort of gamesmanship, well, it's not me, it's somebody else. But having said that, I think it's always the case that the top of the ticket has some effect on those lower ballot races. And so whenever the marquee candidate, in this case Romney, seems to struggle a bit, if you're locked in a close race at the state level, I think you're going to feel those reverberations in tight races, and I think that's what we got. But again, not good news for Romney, because you don't want your own troops out there sort of complaining about you. Hopefully he can turn things around.
What's it mean for Josh Mandel, who's trailing, had tightened the gap, and now Ohio's still leaning a bit to Sherrod Brown. But what's it mean for Josh Mandel going forward?
Well, Josh Mandel has really come a long way. If you look at the polls from last spring, I mean, he was far behind Sherrod Brown, and he's really closed the gap. Now it's 7-point lead for Sherrod Brown. It may tighten up further, but I think there's a race too. Particularly, voters don't know a lot about Josh Mandel, and what they're getting now is from the televised advertising. And so I think for Mandel in particular, what happens at the top of the ticket could influence the race. Now, having said that, there will be some Senate debates that we can look forward to between Brown and Mandel, and that's a time really for voters to hear directly from the candidates, not from the media, but more importantly, not from the TV advertising. So it's an important opportunity for voters. No
music, no making the other guy look bad in black and white. And,
no scary music,
and
ominous voices, because we've had a lot of that, let's face it.
Especially in this Senate, in this Senate race specifically here in Ohio. Let's talk about Joe the Plumber. Samuel Wurzelbacher is still running for office, although if you live around these parts in the last couple of months, you weren't quite sure. But our Bill Horman caught up with Joe the Plumber this past week. Let's take a look.
We first talked with Joe the Plumber while he walked a snowy West Toledo neighborhood back in February. He's running against Democrat Marcy Kaptur, a 30-year incumbent who's not only popular but visible. But Joe has run a quiet campaign away from the sharp focus of the media.
We're having returning calls to media because, quite frankly, you're not going to get me elected. It's the people that I talk to every day that I'm trying to get their votes.
Google his name and you get page after page of entries. He has 20 YouTube videos of his positions on important issues, and he has thousands of Facebook followers. Yet when he does pop up in the mainstream media, his unfiltered comments stir hot debate. Like when he said in Arizona a month ago, Americans should put up a fence on the border going with Mexico and start shooting. And the media have made him a butt of jokes for that.
Which end did that beauty come from, Joe?
But Joe insists millions of Americans agree with his blunt opinions.
It's not that I'm bloodthirsty. It's not that I want to kill people. It's that I want my government to do their damn job and protect the borders like they've been told to do.
Joe's lost 2 campaign managers because he says he refused to play politics like a politician. He distrusts the media, and he's low on cash. So if you don't see him in those fancy TV ads or at some press conference, just know that Joe the Plumber is running this race his way, and that's the way he wants it.
I'm doing it a different way. I always said from the beginning, if I can't get elected being who I am, damn it, I don't want to be elected.
All right, and as we air here on Friday before the Sunday, as we tape here on Friday, Joe has said he will debate Marcy Kaptur on 13 ABC. Looks like around the 25th or 26th, but the details are still being worked out, so we'll see. It's still not carved in stone, Melissa.
Well, it's certainly the case that he's avoided the media. And partly probably due to budget, he has not been on the airwaves advertising. And in some respects, I want to say it's kind of refreshing. I mean, kind of refreshing that this is a candidate who wants to go door to door, do sort of a traditional campaign. But the reality is that I don't know that you can win a campaign under those circumstances. If you're really avoiding the media, you're avoiding the interviews, he's flying under the radar, and it's just hard to see how he's going to win. Now, I think what he said to Bill, it came through. He doesn't like politics. He doesn't consider himself a political person. And you know what? There were a lot of Tea Party-backed candidates who won seats in Congress on that argument in 2010.
But they still had to campaign.
Exactly,
right?
And that's the difference. And I think it's been disappointing to Republicans who wanted to see a more visible race here against Marcy Kaptur, who's been in office for so long. And frankly, I think that some thought the fact that he was kind of a household name as Joe the Plumber from 2008, that brings something. He didn't have a disadvantage in terms of name recognition, but I'm concerned about this flying under the radar strategy. I'm not so sure it's going to work well for him.
But I do agree with you. When you see him, he is a man, he has his convictions and lets them be known, but people need to see it more.
I think they need to see it more.
To see him actually speaking with Bill this past week. And the story with Tom Troy and the Blade as well. So
yeah, I think, as I said, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with his message of I'm an outsider, I don't like politics, but I'm doing this because of my convictions. As I've said, people have won with that kind of message, but unless voters hear it, it almost won't matter what that message is. And up till now, at least, they haven't really heard the message, and that's given Kaptur an opening to say, I don't know what he stands for.
How would you envision a debate playing out between Marcy Kaptur and Joe the Plumber?
Well, first of all, let me say I can't wait to see it. I think this will be something for voters to tune into because I think Marcy is, you know, very much a seasoned politician. She's debated many times before. She's been in the format, and I think that it could be really interesting to see the dynamic that develops between them. And so I'm looking forward to it. I hope those details get worked out.
We'll see if we can get them worked out. All right, Melissa Miller, great stuff as always. Thanks very much. We'll see you next week on Conklin and Company. Make it a Super Sunday, everybody. And we'll see you this week on 13 ABC Action News at 5, 5:30, 6, 11, the morning shows, and coverage of the president and Mitt Romney coming to town, coming to Northwest Ohio on Wednesday. Take care, everyone.